Hey guys, Mike here. So, oh boy, what a day in the market. And yes, the selling continued. I talk about Monday's video, which we're going to recap where we could be going. And so we're going to look at that, what the targets could be. Also look at these big mega caps. We talked about Tesla yesterday, about not breaking something in particular, and it did that as well. But we'll also talk about the big boys, because pretty much, I mean, things are just red all over the place, except for one stock, which I'll talk about, which was kind of funny in a way. And then at the end of the video, I'll show you the Waymo rise and stuff, some details about how that works and stuff if you've never been on it. It was pretty cool. I enjoyed it and stuff, so at least I put it at the end for those who actually want to see that and stuff. And so, you know, one thing to keep in mind that could be spooky the market, there's basically two things going on. One, we're either being set up for Friday's inflation data, right, where we get inflation comes in as is, spending and earnings come in lower, and so all of a sudden, yay, yields drop, and IWM and, you know, high beta, everything just rallies, right? So we could be getting set up for that. We've seen this many times before. Or it could be the start of something even more, which we'll talk about, because something happened to a lot of the major large caps today, which is very important. And so I'm going to show you just a real quick sequencing of what happened there. But one thing to watch out for too is Visa. Like Visa reported, and Visa rarely misses earnings. And so now you got Amex missing earnings, Visa missing earnings, right? And so that could be spooking the market a little bit, and so we'll see. It's not a good thing, that's for sure, that the credit card companies, because, you know, both CEOs pretty much kind of said that, especially Visa was like, you know, we see it the lower, you know, quartiles of earnings, the spending is less, right? And then you got people who are physically responsible, like me and you, and you know, we're cutting back our spending too, just because. So, you know, that doesn't help them a bit. So that's something to also, you know, watch out for as well. Just FYI on that. Now, you know, this is what we talked about Monday real quick, and then we'll get into the charts.
But if we end up coming down and breaking that trend line, right below it, I mean, it's decent support right here. Between 5448 and like 5465, like somewhere in that range is where you want to be looking at if that happens. You know, when you look over here at the moving averages, again, another thing that's going to help you there is the 50 is going to be moving up there. I don't think we've hit the 50 in a little while here, as you can see. And when we flip over to the SPY, if weakness does continue, you can see we came down here, we mitigated some fair value gaps, grabbed liquidity. But if we continue to sell, it kind of almost goes in the same line as this right here. You got this trend line, the 50 moving average right there as well. It's going to meet up around 542 on the SPY right there. If, and that's an if, we continue the weakness going into the rest of this week and next week, okay? So that's a line to kind of watch and see if that happens or not. Because, again, that trend line has been in place for a decent amount of time right there. So if it broke that, yeah, you would definitely see some algos getting triggered and obviously, you know, some more selling.
And like I told members, you know, what I'm looking to see here is if this is what's going to play out on the SPX, the SPY, and the QQQ here. When we look at these charts right here, you can kind of see right there you got the 50 below aligning right with a daily fair value gap, right below that little support area right there. And so we're going to see if that continues. I don't expect it to be a straight line down, but if that continues or not. Same thing on the SPY, as you can see, which would put us down, you know, between 4 and 5%, somewhere in that area. But hitting the 50 moving average and that trend line on the SPY right there, and a little bit of support. And I'll tell you right now on the SPX, when you look at stochastic on the weekly, the larger time frames, it has rolled over, right? And when that happens, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10% moves normally happen. So this is on a larger time frame, right? And so you can see it right here. Anytime it's rolled over and you had a bearish stochastic RSI cross right there to the downside, this is the kind of stuff you see. So keep that in mind. Again, larger time frame right here. Don't mean it's going straight down. Don't mean any of that, okay? Now, when you look at the Qs right here, same kind of deal. You got this trend line. You got the 100. It's lost its 50, which we'll talk about in a minute. And so that will put it going down about another 2% right there. If that was the case, again, we'll go off SPX and the SPY because that is the overall market. And you can see, I think this is going to get trumped, right? This was last week. It was one of its worst weeks since April. I think there's a good chance this week maybe it can be even worse. So we'll have to see, but that's been the kind of market it's been for the NASDAQ 100 and the mega caps right now, because they're just starting earnings, right? And so they've been priced to perfection, and so seeing those sell off those earnings is not a surprise, because Google's earnings weren't that bad at all. And one thing that helped accelerate the NASDAQ today to go down below 3% wasn't just mega caps. it was the QQEW, the equal weight ETF, right? So all those other stocks go in red. And so we have talked about this when it's lost its 50 now. It's lost its 100s as well. So coming into an area where it needs to bounce right here, it could maybe go all the way down to that white line, which should be support right there for another bounce. So if the breadth, remember we always talk about breadth, continues to accelerate right to the downside, obviously the market's going to go with it. And you can see as we pull up the volume profile, it's sitting right there at support. So if that continues to drop, it'll fall down in this gap right here, this volume gap. And so yeah, we could see more downside when it comes to QQEW, which would weigh on the NASDAQ. Okay, again, this doesn't go straight down. Expect some kind of relief, rally, bounce, and all that fun stuff if that's the case. But you can see right here very quickly which stocks lost their 50 moving average day, right? You got Microsoft, now it's coming down to the 100 right there. Apple has not yet. Its 50 is around 208. Go to Google, it lost its 50 after the earnings, also lost this level we had talked about. Watch that trend line right there. That is going to be key. We'll go into that chart a little more. Meta, not only lost its 50, it got rejected off the 50 once it lost it before. So that's another one right there. Amazon, again, rejected off its 50 once it lost it, and it's also lost its 100 moving average on the daily right now. Tesla has not a major move up, still got the 50 right there. On this one, what I'm going to do though is pull up the 200, because that's going to be the one that's going to hit first. And when we pull it up, you can see not quite, and we'll go into this chart in a little more detail. So it has not hit the 250 or the 100 yet. And so again, we'll look at that one in a little more detail, because that's going to be key what those moving averages actually set. When you go over and you look at NVIDIA, same thing, it lost its 50 today, and you'll see the RSI, like all of these stocks, the RSI is below the 50 on the daily, right, which is not a good thing. You want to be above that middle line right there, that 50. And so that's not a good thing. Qs, we already talked about, lost its 50 moving average as well. And again, the 50 is not the 200, it's not the be-all, end-all, it's not the end of the world or anything. It's just can be the start of something, so be aware of that. When you go into NVIDIA right here, you can see right there, I got these shaded areas marked out. These are areas of interest for sure to bounce and things like that. And so we've been bouncing and bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. And so the question is, you know, kind of like we talked about, it came up, grabbed liquidity last week. I was going on vacation, came back down to here. So it's pretty much kind of just moving from fair value gap to fair value gap. And again, it fell below that little level. It's been a good bouncing area. So the question is, are we going to get a bounce from here again or not? If not, obviously, you can look at that next shade area below. It's probably where we're heading when it comes to NVIDIA. Between like 108, 111, which I know a lot of people told me personally they would definitely be buying that one up for sure. But again, this is an area or a time where semiconductors usually in the hottest, right? And so the AI play seems to be under a little bit of attack. And we'll see, you know, how much farther they want to push this one down. You can see right there, if it does come up tomorrow, look for that gap to get filled. And then if weakness continues, maybe you see something like this. Okay, so that's what we want to look for on NVIDIA for sure. See if it can regain that 50. See if these other stocks can regain their 50. They can lose it and then regain it, okay? So just make sure on that. I think a lot of this depends on the inflation data that comes out. Google, like we talked about, that was a key level right there. You can see on the volume profile. Now it fell into that gap where it's sitting right there. It needs to hold that. Again, that trend line is going to be key. If that doesn't happen, somewhere in this area between 165, 169 is most likely where we're headed next if we cannot hold that and get a bounce. And again, a lot of this has to do with the data's going to come out Thursday, data's going to come out Friday. Could be a setup. We'll have to wait and see. But you can see that trend line is pretty important because it was support, 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 and it was resistance, resistance. So that trend line has been coming into play a lot, and we're almost there. And again, don't mean we got to hit it tomorrow. Okay, it could be setting up for Friday to see if inflation data comes in bad, and then toss the market down into the trash can. All right, so just keep that in mind. Now, when you look over at Tesla, we talked about this triangle pattern, go either way. Well, it went to the south, right? That's what I'm saying, go either way, 50-50. And what else did it do? It broke down below what? That trend line I told you. I said, as long as it hangs below that trend line, who cares, right? But there's the trend line. It finally went right back down below it, right there. And it's right above that little shaded area right there, which has always been either a good bouncing point or a good rejection point. So we'll watch and see if that's going to be the case or not. When we pull up the volume profile on this, you can see it's right there on that volume node where that shaded area is at. If it falls through that, if it even comes down there and falls through that, then you're sitting there looking between like 198, 205 possibly, could be the case. Or maybe we come back up, test that trend line, get rejected, or break back above it. If we break back above it, retest and go, great. You know, but right now that may not be the case at all. But what's important to see here is these moving averages, right? Where do the moving averages lie? Right below the shaded area. I'm going to get rid of this volume profile here. I'm going to zoom in for you so you can see it. All of them, the 200, the 50, the 100, but the 250 set right there below that shaded area, okay? And so between 202, 205, and so that's going to be key right there. So you want to see if you're a Tesla holder or shareholder to hold that shade area, at least bounce off the 200, right? That would be kind of a key thing to look at. But again, 21% down. You know, we'll see. Let me know if you're buying right there or not. When you look over here at IWM, what I want to see with IWM is pretty simple. You see that fair value gap, that daily? I want to see if we respect this tomorrow or we cut right through it. If we respect it and bounce, I think we're looking at a W pattern, which means we can go higher. If we cut through it like a hot knife through butter tomorrow, looking at an M pattern, probably heading even lower, okay? What do I mean by cut through it like a hot knife through butter? When any stock or index or whatever, when it's coming down, when it ignores those fair value gaps, the imbalances between the buyers and sellers, usually means you're in for some very quick downside. Prime example was the Qs today. You had, and actually that's terrible, let me redraw this thing. You had a daily fair value gap, an RTH gap, another daily fair value gap, and it ignored it all. It just cut right on through it, and next thing you know, we were down 3.5%. All right, it just kept going down and down and down. So when those are ignored, whether it's the gaps, whether it's the fair value gaps, you can expect some pretty fast downside. So just watch out for IWM on that one. The funny thing was, what was green? One of the members talked to me about this. In phase. It loves that shaded area to bounce. It loves this trend line once it gets above it. It was up double digits, had good earnings, I guess. I don't know if they were the best or whatever. But on a day like today, to see something like this up, almost think it was 12% at one point in time, and the RSI above the 50, that was just kind of funny to me. But again, it loves that area, so mark it out on your chart and stuff. Now, earnings tomorrow, not any big ones going on. The funny thing is going to be the airlines. I can't wait to see how they talk about this on the earnings call, or how are they affected by all these different cancellations they've seen and stuff. But when it does come to red folder news, we do have GDP, unemployment claims coming out before the bell, so watch out for that. And so I'll be watching the futures to see if they start to recover after such a big sell-off on your smaller term time frames, like an hour and below, especially the 30, 15, 5. I mean, so oversold and everything. And so sometimes you get those relief bounces. That means we're going all-time highs. You know, we'll have to see. And of course, the data will have something to do with that as well when it comes out. And so for those who hung around, this is the videos, you know, of me and Waymo. Not all 5 rides, but this is very short for you, very short. And so this was the first time we got in it, and I apologize for the first video. You might have to turn your phone the other way. The rest of them are okay. But this was the first time we got in this stuff with me and my family. We had talked about it. These things are everywhere. You go to any corner. We walked all over San Francisco. Usually we would walk for miles, seeing everything, and then Waymo back, right? Because my son was exhausted and we were tired too, because you're going up and down these hills. So it was a great workout. We always say we went on this vacation in shape. We came back in even better shape because we hiked miles upon miles upon miles, especially up these hills and stuff. And so this is the first time we got in one of them. And then I'll show you what you're looking at when you get in the car. All right, first Waymo ride here with the family. As you can see, let me flip this around.
As you see, we have an auto-driving car.
So that's what that is.
That's
so
crazy.
it is driving and I am not. Let's let you know if we get there. And so this is what you're looking at. A little dashboard is right there in the car, and you see the car in the middle, but on the sidewalks, you see these little round circles, right? And so you saw 3 right there. That's the lady and her dogs. That's what it's seeing. And the whole time I'm just going through here, looking on here and looking up, because you see behind them, you see a person walking a disc and then another disc. So I would look up and count to see if that's what it was seeing. And it was pretty cool to watch. So you can see where you're going and everything. This is what it looks like when you get out. That little round circle up above will have your initials to let you know that's you and it's your ride and it's your time to get in and stuff. And so I think these are Jaguars, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is the model of the car. And then the biggest downfall with Waymo, as far as I can see, is this right here. All right, so I know as Waymo is recording this, having to search for the car can be a son of a gun. I'm out of breath because we literally sprinted through a cemetery to try to find the car. I know they're listening to this, so maybe they can improve upon that. So when you're taking Waymo, you got to find the car. That's probably one of the downsides. But the trips have been good so far. Say hello, Mason.
Hello.
All right, my wife, hello. And so I have no clue why they can't just pull up where you're at. I got GPS on my phone. I don't get it. And so with that one instance, it was this military cemetery, so it's huge. And luckily my wife just happened to see a Waymo pull in there, and so it's uphill, of course. And you get 5 minutes. Once it parks, you get 5 minutes, and then it just takes off without you. And so I threw my son on my back, and we're just running into the, and we were pretty far away. That's why I was out of breath, but especially carrying my 8-year-old son on my back trying to get up this hill. And so, yeah, that's the biggest downfall. The rides were just fine. There was no issues. And never felt unsafe. I think I felt more unsafe outside the car being near a Waymo than I did actually inside the car. I say that jokingly, but they're everywhere. And so, you know, and this is Google owned. There's another one, or Google invested. There's another one that's rolling out now. It's invested and backed by Amazon in San Francisco. We saw that one rolling around too. Totally different looking car and stuff. But I think they're still in the beta process, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, just wanted you to see that, let you know and stuff. So I'll end up putting a video out tomorrow for you. We'll see how the markets go. Let me know your prediction at the bottom, what you think is going to happen there, and for Friday as well. And I'll end up seeing you guys tomorrow.